Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Gilman. I'm the National President of CHW, and I want to welcome everybody here to the CHW webinar. Thank you to all of those who are here today, this afternoon, and who will be watching it later at this as they cannot attend in person. I want everybody to know that we have over 130 people who have signed up, registered for this webinar, which is a testament to our guest speaker today. We are so pleased and honored to have Dr. Aliza Lavie here with us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are in Canada. She has taken time out of her very busy schedule to be with us, and I'm sure you will enjoy the webinar. Dr. Lavie is an Israeli academic, author, politician, and social entrepreneur. She is recognized as one of the most dominant advocates in Israel for Jewish culture and identity, advancing the status of women in Judaism and in Israeli society, strengthening Israeli diaspora relations, and promoting pluralism. She has a PhD from Bar Ilan University, where she is now a lecturer in communications. During her tenure in the Knesset, Dr. Lavie served as the chair of the Committee on the Status of Women and Gender Equality and chair of the Committee to Combat Women Trafficking and Prostitution. She is the recipient of the Outstanding Parliamentary Award for her contributions and groundbreaking legislations. Dr. Lavie is an author of 5 books. Her work, Women's Prayer, published by Random House, won the prestigious National Jewish Book Award in 2008. Her new book is entitled Iconic Jewish Women. Dr. Lavie is also the founder of J12 and Up, an educational technology venture that connects users to their heritage through an interactive online experience based on the legacies of female Jewish role models, and BLNG, Bridging Heritage and Innovation for Jewish Youth. Before I pass the floor to Dr. Lavie, I want to let you know that there will be time for Q&A. So you have a choice. You can either put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand after Dr. Lavie is finished and ask the question yourself. And so now I turn to Dr. Lavie. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I'm so pleased and happy to be here with you. And thank you, Lisa and Jennifer and the team. You're amazing, and thanks for this opportunity. And thank you all the amazing people that we are here with us now and will watch this lecture video. My name is Aliza Lavie, and I would like to start our discussion, meeting with a prayer that may all the hostages come home safely very, very soon. Our brothers and sisters are still in Gaza, in our heart in Gaza, and please God, all of them will come safe. And from here, we send our love to our soldiers and our people of Israel. It's a difficult time for us as Jewish people. We are in Israel in the middle of a war, and the situation here is, we're brave souls who take responsibility stood out on October the 7th, and many of them have not been published, and nobody will know about them, but their legacy did it taken away, and all of us have a lot of knowledge and experience from our mothers and fathers. And in October the 7th, I understood that we are very strong. We are very strong people, the people of Israel, all of us, and a lot of you support us and came to visit. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, because I know that Hadassah and WIZO and each of one of you are doing a lot to support. And first of all, I would like to say thank you. So we don't have a lot of time, so I would like to share the presentation and start with a little bit about my work. This is my first book, Iconic Jewish Women. It's a collection of 59 inspiring, courageous, revolutionary role models. And I found myself in my life ask questions as Aliza, as a Jewish woman, as an Israeli. And a lot of time, I didn't find answers to my questions. And always I say to my students and my children, if you can't find answer, go and make your own research. And most of the time, while I couldn't find answer as a social activist or a legislator or parliamentarian or as a citizens here in Israel, I asked myself what our women that were here before me did. I'm sure that these questions that I'm asking myself together with my friends, my colleagues, are not the first time that women ask. So what women in other generations did, how they continue their life. And we, as Jewish women, we know that we have a long, long, long history. But unfortunately, when we go to the books and we want to learn, there is not enough knowledge about our heritage as Jewish women. So instead of asking questions, I went to make my own journey to find the answers to my questions in my researchers in the last 20 years. And as my first book was mentioned, it was a collection of prayers that the women wrote from very ancient times. And a lot of professors in the university and many people say all the years, no, Jewish women didn't try, they didn't know, they weren't allowed, they didn't know Hebrew. And I'm talking to you about the 13th, 14th, 15th century that women wrote and were very deeply involved and became part of the community. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with our history as Jewish women, very, very active. But unfortunately, we are not that familiar. And I found that I am not that familiar with my history as Jewish women. And I became very, very upset. I'm an officer in the Israeli army. I wrote my dissertation. I went to the university. I know how to write and how to read. But my grandmother, that I'll speak about her later, my granny, she didn't know how to write and how to read. My granny came to Israel from Afghanistan 1920. And my granny, together with her friends in the Bukharia neighborhood in Jerusalem, she, together with them, when the Baal Koreh, the Chazan, the man that read in the Torah, made mistakes, so she, together with her friends from the women balcony, from Mizrat Nashim, they correct him. And always as a child, I say to myself, how come? How come? And my granny and her friends knew all the Torah by heart. Who told them? Who gave them the knowledge? What's happened in our generation? And questions like this, I find that are all together with me. So when we speak about our history as a Jewish women, it's not a history lesson. It's tools for the present and for the future. to find our voice in this world, to use their experience and knowledge and all the presents that they gave us. And we need to bring this knowledge back. So here we are in these pictures. Together with me is my the oldest granddaughter of mine. She's almost 12, together with her girlfriend. And actually, this year is a celebration with her, and we have a lot of activities, and I'll speak also about this later. So Mother's Day, what is Mother's Day and what it means? And I think that in our, Torah, there are saying this here, the instruction of the father, and do not forsake the Torah of the mother. So father have their own job, but what is the Torah of the mother? The Ramban, when he wrote his letter to his son, when he came to Jerusalem, he wrote a letter to his son that was far away from him, and he opened his letter with these words. So what does mean the Torah of the mother? And when we see this amazing picture from the 13th century, actually it's from the Gold Haggadah from the 13th century. And if we have time, we can just speak about this amazing picture from the 13th century. We see here Miriam, the prophet, with her thumb, and this is actually her leadership tool. And I always ask myself, in the night that the people of Israel left immediately Egypt, she remembered to take her tool, her leadership tool. Even in the darkness, she knew that one day the light will come back and it will be time to celebrate, to dance. And this knowledge, this understanding will help her a lot during the time of the desert and the people of Israel. So we need to use our knowledge and our history and our voice to act and to create changes, and especially in this challenging time, both in Israel and around the Jewish world. Days of shattering illusions and of battle of this. We both were colleagues and partners. It is important to focus on our pride in belonging to the Jewish people. And when we speak and reclaim our mother's story, many of the stories were not known. And actually, as I said before, the women that I chose to add to the book didn't want to be famous, but suddenly found themselves in a situation that they need to be the one that took the responsibility. They understood that nobody will do it for them, and then found themselves trying to do the best as they could. And actually, when we speak about Osnat Barazani, who was Osnat Barazani? Osnat Barazani was she was the first woman that was a rabbi in Kurdistan, and her father, that time, and we are talking 2,000 years ago, when her father understood that no one else could continue the yeshiva, He chose her. He understood that his daughter, she's brilliant, she knows the Torah by heart, and she was the one that was in charge on the yeshiva. So who is Isnat Barzani? Why we are not that familiar with her name? Um, Henrietta Sold, Zvia Lubatkin. Zvia Lubatkin, that is one of the resistant fighter in the Warsaw Ghetto. Always we speak about other names, you know, Mordechai Anilevich, but actually Zvia Lubatkin, she was one of the leaders. She was so brave and helped so many people. And we are not familiar with her name. By the way, her granddaughter, Ronnie Zuckerman, she became the first female combat pilot in the IDF. So Zvia Lubatkin, Henrietta Sold, Esther Malka, we familiar with Esther Malka, that, you know, she was a queen of a beauty king, and suddenly became a leader who gave her the understanding that she is the one that need to take responsibility. Okay, Mordechai came to Esther Malka and told her, you are now in the palace and you have to go to the king and speak with him. And remember, the first time that she's speaking in the Megillah, because she was very passive in the first section of the Megillah. But then she realized that nobody can help. And from that moment, she took responsibility, and she was the one that gave order to Mordechai, okay, you need me. Now we are going all together to fast 3 days. She gave the orders to him, and she was the one that told him, okay, all the people have to fast 3 days. I'm not going alone, I'm going with you. Make all the community together, pray, fast, and I, together with my friends here in the palace, will pray also. And after that she understood that all the people with her, and she united them, she went to the king. So Esther, how come that she, and I don't have time to speak, I can give all the lecture about Esther Amalka, but suddenly Esther became halachic point of view, because when she gave him the order to fast 3 days, it means that year, Pesach was canceled because it was the same time of Leil Seder. And you know that Leil Seder we can't cancel ever. And Mordechai told her, no, you can't do it. All the Mefarshim speak about it. And she said, I can't do it. I'm going to do it, because if I'll not do it, there is no any more Pesach. So when we see her understanding and knowledge, we have so many questions to ask about this beauty queen. Who taught her? Who gave her the knowledge? Who gave her the information? And how come that we, as Jewish women, we are not that familiar? I remember the other day when I gave a lecture at Boston with a Hadassah group, and they asked me, Aliza, okay, we are going to speak about this and about that, but first, please tell us, who was Hadassah? Why we named after Hadassah? And I told him, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with the answer, but I told him, you know, Hadassah is the Hebrew name of Esther. Esther is the Persian name. Hadassah is the Hebrew name of Esther the queen. And why is that? Henrietta thought that I just mentioned her, that she is really the one of the women that I admire, and I read about her activities all the time, because every time that I read about Henrietta, I learn more about her knowledge, activities, but a politician way, how she did that, and how she used this idea to work with her friends and colleagues, etc., etc. But Henrietta Sold, when she asked her friends, to see together, and you're familiar because you are in this amazing organization. So it was just before Purim, and she said together with her friends, okay, we are going to have Henry, Esther, the Hebrew name, Hadassah. So many, many, many to speak and to share and to bring back again, not as a history lesson, as a tools that we need in our days. We familiar all with Virginia Woolf, and Virginia said, as women, we seek inspiration in our great mothers, and we can't with this inspiration and knowledge and history, not only in Judaism. My dissertation I wrote about the gender impact in how in Israel we are making the news. And when I decided to write, I remember the other day that I read an article that was written by one of the famous researchers in my field in communication. And that time he said, it was 25 years ago, that when Israeli women will attend the newsroom in Israel, it will be catastrophe. And when I read it, I asked myself, how can he write this sentence and this article? And why I was shocked. And from that article, I decided to go and make my own research and to write a dissertation about the effect of women in the newsroom. So yes, it's a change, but it's not catastrophe. It's better situation. How to write and whom to bring to the newsroom and how to edit. And you're familiar, I'm sure, with all your professionals about gender issue. So again, with us. So Iconic Jewish Women, the book that I wrote and worked very, very hard to translate. It took me 2 years to translate this book to English. And actually, the women that are in the book in the English version are not the same that the women that I chose to the Hebrew. And most of them are the same, but I try to speak via women that are bringing, a lot of, I think, idea. And if, in Israel, we familiar with Miriam Ben Porat, she was the first judge in the Supreme Court. So, of course, with Bader Ginsburg, I chose to the English version. And I can give more example. So I think that for we think back throughout our mothers, if we are women, as Virginia told us, and in this book you will find various ways of celebrating our and to bring our voice. And actually, I chose the Bat Mitzvah junction in any ages. I found that a lot of us didn't have Bat Mitzvah, and if we have, I found, I don't know, in Israel, the situation is that many, many women in my age and before and after share with me that the bat mitzvah, okay, it was something, but the brothers or other boys in the family, it was much more attention and heritage that was around, and many questions to ask. What is really bat mitzvah, and how to celebrate, and how to prepare, and what can we do together? And I found that bat mitzvah year for the girls and for the family, the parents, the aunt, the grandmother, that together we can sit and study, learn, share, talk about our heritage as Jewish women. And I found that it's amazing journey. I do it this journey together with my first granddaughter, Ophir. And it's really, really, really nice. The first picture that you saw in the first slide was taken in Zichron Yaakov. We went to Sarah Aronson house, and your next visit in Israel, if you haven't been there, it's really nice to see the first spy, Sarah Aronson, and her activities and how she became spy, and how come that this amazing, amazing woman took responsibility and did all her amazing work. So, as I said, the mitzvah at any time, during, of course, the year between 11 to 12, but also, and I'm very, very happy to tell you a little bit about Tali Haddad. Tali, she's a brave woman from Ofakim, and she's a friend of mine. Tali, in October the 7th, without any help, left her house when she heard what is all the people that came and shout and murder in her road many, many people. I don't know from where she took her brave, and she took her car and took a lot of people and went with them and drove them to the hospital. And Tali Haddad, when I spoke with her about the book, I'm sure that Tali, she's one of the examples from October the 7th that understood that nobody can help, no ambulance in the area, no soldiers, and no one was, no one. And Tali left her house and was there for the people around. And I'll stop because I see that the time. So our story. Always I ask myself if Golda will come and visit and ask us questions. She will ask questions. Hey, where are you? I made a lot of legislation in the 50s, and I do this and I did that. And our story as a people, as Jewish women, must impact amongst this generation, our generation, all over the Jewish world, recognizing the responsibility that these women, our mothers, that the women that were here before us, took upon themselves, make them more than lessons for history. They are role models for us, and their stories deserve to be better known. So, Golda, many, many, many questions to ask about her activity, but more than about her memory. And only after so many years, it was the movie Golda, and now we start speaking about her activities. But before, because of Yom Kippur War and what's happened, that her memory, and we are not that familiar with her, with the fact that she came from Milwaukee and moved to Israel and made Aliyah and start her political life and become the first, until one, the only prime minister in Israel. More I read about Golda, I became familiar with her heritage that, I'm telling you, I didn't even in my dreams thought that it's belonged to her. And when I read her book, My Life, is named My Life, I was shocked. It was totally different from what I knew about Golda. So how come that we need this knowledge? We need this knowledge because when we speak about there is no enough women here and there, and we want to be more involved, and etc., and how come that till now there is no other women that become prime minister in Israel or in other positions in the Jewish world and in all over the world. So a lot of lessons we can learn from her legacy, from her books that she wrote to us. And here we come to my granny, as I spoke before, Hannah Mashiach, that came from Afghanistan, 1920. And the women that came before, we need to bring their voice and to bring our voice to the Jewish story. Golda Meir, Henrietta Sol, Tali Haddad, and other women that I'm not that familiar with her name because no one wrote about them. And it's a mission for us to bring it back. And that's what I did in the book. I made my own research and I took a lot of testimonies and went to the libraries, museums, spoke with family, and tried to bring back the story of these women for us. And I chose these women not only because of their actions, but also because of the way they spoke to my heart. And I hope they will also speak to your heart and excite you. Mentioned before, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I think that her story can bring a lot of us a lot of inspiration, and even in a situation that we want or need to help ourselves or other women around, and to take some advices from their experience and their knowledge. Who familiar with Eleanor Rudnick? Do you familiar with this name? You can answer. Oh, I mean, I'd be more than happy to hear you, because I wasn't. I wasn't familiar with Eleanor Rudnick, and just in April the 2nd, it was the first no just it was the first time that Colonel G became the first female base command in the Israeli Air Force. It was months ago. And when I saw this amazing picture, I came back to Eleanor Rudnick. Eleanor Rudnick, she a trainer of the Israeli First Air Force pilots. At the age of 17, Eleanor Rudnick had already earned the title of Miss Kern Country, California, as a champion Christian. She was one of 12 children born to one of the richest men in the United States, Oscar Rudnick, an important donor to the Zionist cause. By the time she was 22, Eleanor had founded a flight school. 3 years later, she put the school on the line when she made it available, calendly, to pilot from the land of Israel's Air Force who were preparing for the War of Independence. Eleanor, often called Johnny, was the pilot's graduate, of course, in aviation mechanics with a private flying license. So, who was Eleanor and why we are not familiar with her? And only after 60 years the Israeli army invited her, and it was a nice ceremony, and she got a lot of attention. But it took 60 years that someone in the army understood that we haven't say thank you to Eleanor. So more about Eleanor you can read in this book. And why it's important to know about her. It's important because how come that she took, responsibility to open the school to the pilots, the first pilot from Israel before Israel was established, and more to read about Eleanor and share and bring her memory back. So it is important that we know who we are at any age. And it is important that we use the gift left to us by the women who were here before us. We will find out that many of them fought and act in similar events. So why don't we use them? I mentioned before, Miriam, one of the three leaders in the wilderness, in the desert. We have Moses and Aaron and Miriam. And Miriam with a special way of leadership, how she did it, how she made the people of Israel united. She is the one that the people of Israel waited for her. When she became sick, and it's not, we don't have enough time to ask about Miriam, what's happened, but only for her, the people of Israel decided to wait till she became, and the tzarat, the sickness left her. And altogether, suddenly, the people of Israel that left Egypt and all the time complained. The first time they spoke in one voice, and they asked Moses to wait together. So it means reading the Torah. It's not, and it means that she knew how to lead them, and they pay her back, and they waited for her. The people decided to wait for her. So when we speak about leadership and the differences between women leadership and men, how come that we can achieve this and that? And I'm sure that if, open a discussion about leadership and achievements and a lot of ramification of trying to combine between families, duty, community, career, and a lot of responsibility that we as women have on our shoulders to see how Miriam did it and the way that she was, the one that all the people wait for her. And from her story, for me, it's amazing lessons for life. So I don't know if we have time, but Miriam, we can speak a lot about Miriam, and as I said, I love Miriam, but first time that a woman called, a prophet, and she wasn't only a prophet, but also a leader, as I said. And all the women went out after her, and all the men. So jump to the bat mitzvah girls of all ages. My hope in writing iconic Jewish women is that bat mitzvah girls of all ages will use the story in this book to discover our own identity, your own path, and your own gifts. Iconic Jewish Women is designed for the bat mitzvah girls of all ages out with their families and their community. And this tour can help you as you approach your bat mitzvah girls and cousins and nephews and whatever around you and yourself. Because for me, bat mitzvah is a time that I'm coming back to Aliza while I was 12, to my dreams, to my wishes, to questions that I ask myself that age. And I think that in this year, it's opportunity for the boys, certain, but for the girls. And the reasons that unfortunately we don't have a ritual or custom that, like the boys, the boys all over the Jewish world. Okay, I know that in some communities the girls are also reading the Torah, and I'm not opening for discussion, but the fact that it's only in some communities, and every family or community or girls can decide themselves. And I suggest that in this year, before and after, we can bring back the knowledge and tools. And together we can sit with the young girls together and choose one of the role model in the book, and one that speak to her, and one that she can become, her role model and take confidence or other aspects, and to make together a ceremony for the family. And it's an opportunity to tell the story, our story, to be ambassadors to our knowledge, because it's so, so, so important. And more we learn and more we study and more we make our own journey and research, I'm sure, I'm telling you, find a lot of knowledge. And that's what happened to me when I made the research about the bat mitzvah, and I asked questions. What other women did many years ago? I found that the bat mitzvah, by the way, started in Italy, 1860. And women like us, that we are sitting together and study and learning and want to be much more involved in our community. And they sat together in Italy, in Verona, and asked themselves, what are we going to do with our daughters? They are going to have bat mitzvah. And the ceremony started that time, 1860. And actually, I found in Hebrew, by the way, tests that was altogether for the girls. It was just before Shavuot. All the girls wore a white dress, and they came to the synagogue or to one of the houses and pray together and bless together. And this is amazing, amazing bless for bat mitzvah girl. And I think that my hope in writing this book is that, as I said, bat mitzvah girls of all ages will find their heritage and will find role model to share. And in our generation, and I see my granddaughter friends, they have other tools to share. They can make a video or use it in the TikTok or other social media to tell a story, to share, to bring back. So us as women, parents, grandmothers, leaders, teachers, doctor in the hospitals, whatever, we need this knowledge to bring it back and to use it and to take from our mothers' history, understanding and answers to our days. We are living in a situation, in a time, difficult time. And yes, a lot of questions. I ask myself, what's happened to my colleagues in the university? Me, when I, I'm, I when I met Judith Butler, 20 years ago, and I read her books and article, I was shocked, and I learned about it, and more than that, I tell her about her as knowledge to my students, but I can't do it anymore after what she said and what she did. So a lot of questions to ask. I mean, about rights, equal, uh, me too. What is all about when we see our times and questions that we can't solve, and with anti-Semitism, what's happened in all the campuses, and why is that? So, first of all, it's not the first time. What our fathers and mothers did. Let's go back to Herzl. Let's go back to Bialik. It's not the first time that anti-Semitism around us, but we can succeed. And with this knowledge to be much more strong and see the light, like Miriam in the dark night when they suddenly had to leave Egypt. She knew that she will need a time to celebrate, to bring music. The light will come, and the redemption is is here. We need to work. We need to make homework, and we need to bring back the knowledge, to become stronger, and to work together. So I would like to open it for discussion, questions, and then Lynn.
No, so I just wanted to thank you, Aliza, for joining us today. I have to say, first of all, I found it really interesting, and you've done so much research on these incredible women, so many that I personally find, role models in my own life. In fact, I have a photograph of Golda Meir in front of my desk, and I look at it every day, and I think to myself, if Golda could run a country, I could surely run an organization across Canada. So she's my inspiration every day. She keeps me going when I want to pull my hair out. So I was so happy to see that she was featured in your book, and so many other women, both historic and modern day women, that you've identified. So thank you for writing this book. Thank you for inspiring the next generation of young women. I mean, what a wonderful idea to suggest this as, a gift for bat mitzvah age girls. And you inspired me as I was listening to you. I was thinking, how could we turn this into a fundraiser? I just sent off an email to my team, need to discuss tomorrow. So I'm sure we'll be able to boost your book sales very quickly, and help inspire, Canadian young women, and raise some money for our organization. So thank you for sharing your time with us today. And I wanted to open up the Q&A and help moderate that. So I've received a couple of questions already in the chat. You're welcome to unmute yourselves, put your camera back on, and ask Aliza your questions directly. If you would rather that I share them on your behalf, then by all means, just put them into the chat. If you're going to unmute yourself, if you don't mind just using the icon to raise your hand so that we don't have multiple people talking at the same time, just be respectful to everybody, that would be great. So the first question that I had was, what criteria did you use to decide which iconic women to use in your book?
Actually, responsibility. I think this is the first thing that I looked for, women that were there for the people and understood that nobody will change, make different, help, and brought their knowledge and was there. And, I try to bring from different periods and from East and West and from the Bible and from our days. In the Hebrew version, I decided to have only women that are not with us anymore. In the English version, I we have 59 stories, but I add section of women in our days. And what else I add to the book, that in the end of the book, you can find, first of all, a timetable. I found out that we are not that familiar, all of us, with, what was before and who were. And while I was the chairperson of Mount Herzl, many people and also brilliant people ask me, Aliza, Herzl was before Ben Gurion, or Ben Gurion was, so if Herzl decided to have a state, so suddenly why this happened and that happened and why it took 50 years? So there is a timetable here, and you can find the woman, the figure here, and more than that, you can also read information about some definitions that not all of us are familiar. So here we can find a glossary. What is Agada? What is Aliyah Bet? What is Amidah? What is Ashkenazi, Sephardi, words that have a meaning. So this you can find in the book and more. And every woman, I suggest what to do, how to become an ambassador and share the story, use a wedding, bat mitzvah, 60 birthday. It's become very popular. 60, 70 to say, okay, I want to make this birthday bat mitzvah and bring knowledge from woman in the history that I find that she speaks to me.
So just curious, if you had to pick one that was a standout for you, one woman who really encapsulates, everything good, everything inspirational, everything motivational, strength of character, integrity. Which iconic Jewish woman would you select?
First, I can't. That's why I decided to work on another project and use all the technique and AI, etc. Because my dream, my next dream, and I'm working on it very, very hard, is to make all of this in a virtual way. And it means that we can add more, not only women, also men. But I'll answer to your question in a way that, again, women and men chose it 160, 70 years ago in Italy. And in the ceremony for the bat mitzvah that they prepared, they chose, you know who they chose to be the role model for the girls? They didn't choose Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, or other women. They chose Deborah the prophet. Deborah, she was a leader and she was a judge. And she was a strategic, army strategic. She gave the order to Barak how to do this and how to do that. And that time, it was another prophet, a man, and he should make the decision for the people and be the judge. And the people of Israel chose to go to Deborah instead of him, even though that she was far away from them. So I think in a way that Deborah brings everything together, and it means to us and to the young generation, you can be whatever you want and like. And I think that at that time that they couldn't say it by words to, put Deborah in the middle of the ceremony and read her song all together. It's statement for us. So maybe it's kind of answer for you.
That's great. I was not familiar with Deborah, so there you go. So I learned something today.
Read
and
about
so-
her. It's
What?
really amazing. We need to read about her. How come that this woman became judge? Don't forget that Jewish women, are even can't be, they can't be a witness. And my first legislation in the Israeli parliament, after I was deeply involved as a social activist with all the problems that we have with agunot. So my first legislation was to add women to the committee that select or choose who will be the rabbinical in the court. Because think about it, of course, unfortunately, there is no women in the rabbinical court, but I'm talking about the committee that chose. How come that women are not? So thank God I solved this issue, and now we have 4 women in the committee. But it took me 15 years together with my friends as a social activist to try to do it. And I brought the experience with me to the Israeli parliament. So the first legislation, week after I came, I put on the desk this legislation because I knew what I want to achieve and what I want to change. So think about Deborah.
Yeah.
Deborah, she, she was the judge.
Okay, I want to say something. Shalom Aliza, זו פסיה.
Pesia, I just mentioned my visit in 2008, and actually Pesia hosts me. So nice to meet you.
יישר כוח, ובאמת על ההרצאה וגם על התרגום, שיהיה עכשיו, יוכל להפיץ אותו בקנה מידה יותר רחב. ובאמת אני כתבתי מכתב, אז אני אנסה
Switch to English.
Okay, so I know Aliza from Israel. We met a few years ago, and then I hosted her here when she came first time to Toronto and spoke at Shari Shamayim. And so I first of all wish her Mazel Tov on her translation. And we are going to get together. Aliza is interested in coming and speak in Toronto, so I will make my effort to see and reach out. And I hope other people who are listening have contacts too. That would be very helpful. Nice to see you, Aliza.
Thank
okay,
you so
take
much.
care, and hopefully we will have a better time in Israel and around the world for us Jews. And we're looking forward to some normal realities. Okay, take care, ולהתראות.
Thank you so much.
להתראות, bye.
I believe there's somebody else who wants to speak before we wrap up.
Yeah, hi, my name's Devorah. So I love the whole thing that you said about Devorah. Thank you. And I just wanted to thank you because the book that you did on Tefillot, that you gathered from all the sources, has been a constant companion in my life.
Thank
and
you.
People turn to me and they say, the chuppah's in 20 minutes. Can you send me the tefillah that the mother says for her son? And you've just added so much meaning into our lives by bringing together all these ceremonies. And it's so I bless you with Shanim Arukot, that you should continue with this holy work. And the other thing, I was wondering if Sarah Shanira is one of your women.
Yeah, of course. Sarah Schneer from Bet Yaakov, of
She's my
course.
hero.
Yeah, it's a lot to tell about her, about Donna Grazia, about the other women in our history that made a change and
Yeah.
took responsibility and not wait, till someone will give her, permission to do. They took
Absolutely.
control.
So thank you. Continue to be an inspiration.
Thanks, Deborah. Thank you. Thank you.
So on behalf of CHW, Aliza, we just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us today. We're very grateful to have you. And I know you mentioned you're going to be coming to North America. I hope that we can host you here in Canada and do a part 2 and hear more about the wonderful women that you've researched who are certainly an inspiration, and as part of CHW's mission, that's what we do. We empower Jewish women. So thank you for joining us, and to those who have joined us today, we just want to thank you all for participating and remind you that our annual campaign continues until June 30th. So if you have not yet made a gift to our campaign, proceeds are supporting our 2 hospitals, Hadassah Hospital, Shamir Medical Center, for the rehabilitation and PTSD recovery for civilians and soldiers in Israel who are so deeply injured and traumatized since October 7th. So please visit our website and make a gift if you have not yet done so, or support the various events taking place in centers across the country that are supporting the campaign. Aliza, thank you again so much for joining us. And thank you to everybody as well.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.